roll it up, we gon' burn it down.
Hello and welcome back everyone to PKIdeas for another tournament reflections video. This time around we'll be looking at my game against Chris Chan, and I think this was round number 5. So next week I would be saying round number 5 as well, and that is a mistake because I have pre-recorded some of these videos, so unfortunately things happen and I'm too lazy to go back and edit them. With that being said, let's get straight into the game. We have myself as white playing against Chris Chan as black. And Chris is a 2153 player. Him and his brother Lewis have been wrecking the chess scene, absolutely destroying opponents left, right and center. Knight to f3, followed by d5, c3, knight f6. Let's start off the engine. And then you have d4, c5, e3, knight c6. Now everyone knows what this opening is called. It's called the Collie system. I decided to bring out the Collie system in this game because I hadn't played it in any of my previous games. So I decided to swap it around by playing bishop to d3, bishop to g4, knight b to d2, e6, and in this position I did castles. Normally you have seen games that go like queen a4, c4, bishop b1, a6, e4, bishop takes f3, g takes f3, bishop to e7, and this game alternately led for a win for black. But there are different moves that are possible in the situation where I did castles. So normally after castles what happens is bishop to d6, which is what he played, d takes e5, bishop takes c5, and now e4. So now you got a normal Collie system position, except for the fact that this bishop on g4 is a bit annoying. So I have to try and kick it out, meaning that in this position I would be thinking about plans about playing h3 or maybe e5 or maybe rook to e1. You'll see that these three candidate moves are quite a heavy occurrence within this game in the next few moves. Castles, queen c2, queen c7, and now I played a mistake. I played pawn to h3. Now remember, the three candidate moves were e5, rook e1, and h3. As you all may know, I did the worst move possible in this situation. I played h3, and after bishop takes h3, white has a resignable position, because after bishop takes h3, if g takes h3 happened, let's do this. What happens is queen to g3 check, and you have king to h1, queen takes h3, knight h2, and you have knight g4. Position is pretty much lost. It's -12, and there's no point on playing on the game. But here, I could survive if I didn't do g takes h3 and instead I did something like king to h1, which is what happened in the game. I could have also done something like knight to g5, as the computer points out. But after the game, me and Chris had analyzed that d takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes h3, and knight f6 would ultimately give him a better advantage because he is up a pawn. After bishop takes h3, I decided to accept the loss of pawn, play king h1. After king h1, bishop to g4, b4, now bishop to d6. After bishop to d6, e takes d5, e takes d5, knight g5, h6, knight h7, knight takes h7, bishop takes h7, and king to h8. In this position, my king is in an extremely bad position. There's nothing that I could have done in this position to try and save it. In terms of my pieces and black's pieces, if you look at white's pieces, you have this rook on a1, which is doing nothing, this bishop on c1, which is doing nothing, whereas nearly all of black's pieces, including this rook on f8, is actually doing something in this position. So you have the queen, the bishop forming a battery, this bishop on g4 is controlling the light squares, and this knight is soon to join in the fray towards e5. So, bishop to f5, I needed to swap the two bishops off. Bishop takes f5, queen takes f5, and now bishop to e5. After knight f3, bishop takes e3, rook b1, knight e7, queen h5, queen d6, rook b3, rook a to c8. Now, I'm trying to create some sort of attack out of nothing. However, Chris is not letting me even budge. So, after bishop to e3, b6, g3. Instead of g3, what the engine suggests that I would play is either rook to d1 or rook to c1. After rook to c1, bishop to f6, rook takes, and queen takes f7, and then d4 would ultimately be still winning for black. However, here instead of rook takes c8, if he had done knight takes c8, which on the odd chance he might, but may not actually. Now this is winning for me because after bishop takes h6 and g takes h6, queen takes h6, king g8, you have knight to g5. After bishop takes g5, queen takes g5, queen g6, I have queen to e5, threatening the rook, going to g3 and skewering the queen. Unfortunately, none of this is going to happen because I did not play rook c1, and instead I played g3, trying to bring in my rook to h and then attacking the king straight down there. So queen to g6, queen h3, which is a mistake according to the engine. I should have swapped the queens off, it says, which might be true, but I was still going for some sort of chance within the game. Even though there was no possibility that I could win, having some hope of winning is better than having no hope of winning at all. So after d4, I played bishop to f4. Here, if I did bishop takes d4, bishop takes d4, knight takes d4, it's true that I win the pawn back. However, I am still down an extra pawn, as well as having a really bad position because all of my pieces are not working together at all. Also, one of my active pieces, my bishop on e3, is going to get swapped off to one of his less active pieces, the bishop on c3. So once those swap off, it'll be inherently better for him anyways. So after d4, bishop to f4, now queen e4, king g2, guarding the knight, rook c6, rook h1, knight to d5, bishop to c1, rook to f6, and now queen to h5. You have 1-2 pieces attacking this knight, and you have 1-2 pieces defending this knight, so the knight's all fine. Now he plays rook to f5, removing the defender, and the only move that I had was to play rook h4. I had to force his queen to move out of the way and stop it from attacking my knight. So he played queen to c2, and I played queen to g4. Here he played knight to f6, and I played queen back to h3. After knight to e4, I played bishop to d2. Instead of bishop to d2, it says rook takes e4 was much better. However, after queen takes e4, then he's pretty much up the exchange as well as 2 extra pawns. So he's got a 4-pawn advantage. Here, bishop to d2 was what I played, and knight takes d2, knight e1, rook takes f2, an excellent move because after king takes f2, what I played, knight e4 check, king f3, and knight g5, winning their queen. And unfortunately, it's going to be mate in 3 because after king to g4, queen to e2 check, king f5, g6 check, king f4, queen e4, that is checkmate. So with that being said, that is the end of the game. One of the more unfortunate games in this tournament, simply because I had no fighting chance at all. I pretty much ruined my own position by playing h3. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you do. If I had missed some kind of analysis, please go down below to the comment section and write something that I had missed. And so with that being said, thank you, and I'll see you next time.